Gustavo Morales podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. Robert, we have a very special guest today, man.
I know.
And I always say special guest, and I always say that, but
Yeah, but they're all special.
they're all special.
Yeah,
they're all special to us because we've only hear about you all through Robert's story, and then through something more than us, people have reached out to us, just like Gustavo Morales is right here, and he is one of the survivors from that night that Robert helped pull out of the water. I just want to thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, about what you're doing now before we get into the podcast.
Yeah, okay. I'm from Brownsville, of course, but now I've been living in Austin for the past, it's going to be 3 years now in August. And I'm a self-employed, been working all my life at import-export business. But besides that now, I'm working in, I was telling Robert, I call it my hobby. I'm a soccer referee now.
Wow.
Right after my accident, 2 years after, I became a soccer coach for boys and girls. And I led like 12 years coaching. Then I became a referee.
Wow.
And right now I'm working as a referee.
It's a hard job.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
wouldn't want it.
It is. But I mean, there's a lot of running, a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling to you. but no, it's fun.
It's
I
kept
like
you in
I
good
like
health. It's kept you in good health.
it. Yeah.
win.
I mean, totally. I mean, it's been helping me being in shape. Of course, I would like to be a little more skinnier, but I'm good.
I think that's everybody.
Yeah, that's all of us.
But no, it's I like it and I love it.
That's
part
awesome.
of- and I work. That's one of the reasons that it was hard for me to come, because every single weekend I'm working.
And you're in Austin now.
Either in Austin, or sometimes I'm traveling either to San Antonio, or Houston, or Dallas to do games.
Wow.
But most of the time I'm in the Austin area.
Gustavo, thank you for coming down. I know it was a long drive, but it's super awesome that you did.
How does it feel seeing him? When was the last time y'all saw each other?
17 years.
17 years ago.
That's what
yeah.
I was just saw. 17 years.
And how does it make you feel, Robert?
It's
I see a big old smile on your
man,
face.
It's a warming feeling. Yeah, it's like, you know, running into a high school friend that you know well and that you missed. You know, our history is a little bit different. You know, we met that night in a very, very terrible accident. But I think we both have the same appreciation for one another. You know.
Oh yes.
We definitely do, and so yeah, it's surreal is the best word I can use. It's surreal to see him here.
So let's lay the groundwork for this, because we were just talking off camera, and your vehicle was the last one that
The
went
last one.
off.
Yes.
So just take us back to that night. What do you remember?
Well, I thought I had everything and remember everything, but now after seeing your podcast, man, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know.
Yeah, that's exactly
I mean,
what
the
our goal was.
Most that I don't remember, even I was telling my Robert, I called my dad last week or 2 weeks, that do you remember when I arrived to the hospital how my clothes were? And he goes, yeah, they were all. I mean, they were. I mean, all messed
Like
up.
shredded, right?
Shredded with
Shredded,
scissors. It looked
yeah.
like they were precisionally cut all upwards.
Well, right, I don't remember that part.
Wow.
The only thing that I remember that I arrived with only one shoe.
Wow.
I remember that.
Wow.
I don't know what, but about the clothing, I don't remember anything. But I think like remember what I went through and everything. But now it was 95. Now it's about 85, 90%.
So talk about that. When you went off the bridge, like, just, I guess, take us moment by moment
Yeah.
about what happened.
I used to work. I was working at the island as a restaurant manager. It was a Friday night, of course, and so it was. I was doing my normal duties, clean up and have be ready for the next day and everything. So I started heading home because my wife was pregnant at that time, 6.5 months
Wow,
pregnant.
I didn't know that.
I always, every single day, I was calling her. You know, I'm on my way there. Just so it's gonna take me 20, 30 minutes, but just for you to know, I'm on my way there. I'll see you later. Bye. That night, remember leaving the restaurant, and I don't know why, but when I was getting into the causeway on my pickup, I saw the clock, and the clock was showing 1:43 a.m. I mean that, 100% sure, 1:43 a.m. So my wife was driving, and then I saw coming from the bay lights, what you were telling on one of your podcasts, lights. But in my mind, I said, well, it's Friday night, they're fishing. I mean, what else could it be? And I said, okay, and I kept driving. 2 seconds, 1 minute, or 30 seconds after, I was flying.
Wow.
Wow.
No brakes at all, nothing.
So you literally didn't have any time to realize, like, it's not like you could see the opening.
No, I didn't put any brakes. Probably I put the brakes when I was on my way down.
Yeah.
Because that's how, I mean, thank God I didn't have any broken bones. But my ligament of tendons on my the right one, got damaged. So it took me like 10 months, 1 year to get back to normality, but with no broken bones.
Wow.
So I think the brake, because of the instinct, I put the brake when I was on my way down to the water.
And that's when I tell you and the podcast, those of you guys that have been listening, as the cars were coming off the bridge, their tail lights would light up and the engine would rev. Wow. I think it's because le van puchando a todo. They're pushing everything.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying
you're right.
to brace themselves and to stop or speed up, like the confusion. So I remember every car coming off the bridge being super loud because the pedal was all the way down and the brakes super bright because they're pumping the brakes.
Wow.
So yeah, for you to say that you were hitting the brakes in the air, that's exactly what we saw.
And another thing, even though it took me, after it happened, supposedly according to the speed that I was going, the time it took me since my pickup fell off the bridge until I hit the water, it took like 2 seconds.
Wow.
That's what the friends, engineers have been telling me.
How high is that bridge?
81.
81 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and you're in the water.
And you're in the water. Yeah.
Wow.
Remember on my way down, those 2 seconds, and I don't know why. I remember that I was going like on a roller coaster, holding to the wheel, and going like this. Because they one of the questions about how do you went nose down or it flip or what? I say, I think I went nose down. Why? Because I remember like a roller coaster. And then I was, through the, of course I was not watching, but I saw the water coming from the...
Coming in from the windows?
From the doors? Yeah, because of the water that broke down the pipes.
The pipes, yeah. That was
on the
splashing
bridge, on the causeway.
Wow.
So those 2, I remember that then I hit the water. That time, I didn't know what was going on. I don't know if I got a flat tire. I don't know if someone hit me from the back. I didn't know exactly what was
completely
going
disoriented. Even when we found you in the water, I could tell that he was physically okay. You know, he wasn't all cut up or his clothes were shredded, but you were still like, ¿Qué pasó? Like, what happened? Like,
I remember because I think it was I don't know if it was Tony or. Remember the first question when they were pulling me out of the water to put me on the boat. I asked him, another terrorist attack?
Yes.
What happened?
Remember, yeah.
And they told me, no, just calm down. It was just an accident. I said, okay. I didn't see the tugboat, the barge, until the next day on TV.
Wow.
Because I swam to the opposite side where the tugboat was, and the tugboat went through, right?
Yeah.
And then stopped on the other side of the causeway. Yeah.
So when you were in the water, did you roll down your windows?
Well, at the beginning, the human instinct was trying to break down the window with my hand. At that time, I didn't realize that I was wearing my seatbelt. So instinct, and I remember hitting the door with my leg.
Try to open it.
Yeah, try to open it because I did try to open it, and of course it didn't open because it had the lock. And then those few minutes, I don't know how long I was underwater. I stood underwater. I don't remember that. But I realized something, and like I told my dad, those 5-10 seconds, something, man, and I don't know how to explain it. Something, I was real calm, and I'm telling you, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. I don't know. I mean, of course, it was God. But that made me realize, hey, wait, you're wearing the seatbelt. So I took out the seatbelt. Thank God it didn't stuck because sometimes
se atoran.
Se atoran, and then you cannot do
You
anything.
can't get out. Yeah.
And then I realized that my pickup had manual windows. So I rolled down the window. Don't ask me when I took, okay, 1, 2, 3. No, I didn't realize, I mean, I remember that. I just remember rolling down the window, and boom, that's how I was able to get out of my truck.
Wow.
Now, another question they've been asking me, have the cabin fill out of water right away? And I said, no. I was feeling that the water was coming through the brake.
Mm-hmm. Through the pedals.
Through the pedals. And that's when, at one moment, I was thinking, wow, I don't want to die like this.
Oh, my God.
Jeez. That is insane. So you're the last one. That means that you were most likely on top of other
Everyone.
vehicles.
Yeah, there's another thing, question they've been asking me, how deep did I went? And I say, you know what, I don't think, because it didn't took me that long just to get to the surface. But I don't think I went that deep, probably because I hit some pillars or other cars. I don't know.
Or other cars, yeah.
I don't know.
Wow. Jeez, man. That has to be so insane too.
When I was around the surface, I was looking the causeway right in front of me, so that I didn't swim up. I went to one side.
Oh,
because when I get out of the surface, I was looking at the causeway right in front of me.
You could already see the gap where it was.
I saw the gap, and I saw the water falling down and everything. So why? Don't ask me.
And it's amazing because if you think about it, had you floated towards the west side of the bridge, there was that electrical cable.
Oh.
You know, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a cable, big fat cable that was hanging off of the bridge. It would hit the water, and it would like pop. It would explode. Y aventaba el cable para arriba. It would shoot it right back up. So it's amazing that that you floated away from that, because had he been there under the water, under the cable, he could have gotten electrocuted.
Yeah, and also
water could have pushed you under.
Bridget and Rene also we swam to the same side.
That's right,
Everybody.
because if your vehicle went in, then you would have been facing the left side, which you would have naturally gone out west.
West.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he came out to the east and towards the island. We're like closer on that side.
So take us back to when you first saw him in the water.
We at that point already had Bridget on the boat, and you had something in your hands, or I think there was something that I didn't know if it was a jacket or what, and
Really?
you're on your back. Yeah, you were. It looked like you were holding on to something.
Wow.
And then when you saw us, you threw it and went to the boat, like towards the boat, and we threw you a floating.
Yeah, I
thing.
remember the float. Before you got there to me, I remember that. I know how to swim. That's another thing that I think
That
helped me
helped,
out.
yeah, definitely.
Because they've been asking, well, what about the fishermen were not there? And I say, well, thank God I know how to swim. I was going to swim to a pillar or I don't know.
Bridget had been swimming and floating for about 10 minutes, and her thought of mine, or her train of thought was, I'm going to swim towards the island.
Yeah, but it was too far away.
It's too far, you know.
No.
That's way too far.
No, I realized that. Then I remember lying down on the water,
floating.
because my the pain of my leg was. I thought at that moment that I had a broken bones, because the pain was. It was too strong, too hard. So I tried to relax, to lay down and float and say, well, let's see, because I didn't realize at the time about them. I thought I was on my own, and then I heard the screaming from Bridget. So I start screaming to her, yeah, I'm here. Let's wait. Just only.
Were you two screaming at each other in the dark, kind
I
of?
think at that moment, I remember
Wow.
start screaming for her to know that I was there, and probably
For her
me
to-
to know that
yeah.
she was there. And but no, when I was trying just to sort of like just
On your back?
on my back, no, there was a lot of strong
Current-
gas.
Gasoline smell. Yeah.
Smell.
Well, you were essentially floating in gas.
And I saw a lot of debris and from probably plastic from the cars. I don't know. And I said, shoot, no. Let me just be ready.
I think you wound up grabbing something that you saw floating.
remember that.
Yeah. I remember thinking, "But what is he holding on to?" But when you saw us, you let it go, and we threw you the flotation device. Let me ask you, I always felt guilty from leaving you, because we left you there for a
Do you
little
remember
bit.
that?
Really? You
Yeah,
let
when
me?
we gave you the floating device, I had to leave and turn around and come around to position the boat so we could get you on.
No, I don't remember
You
that
don't
part.
remember that.
You
I
see.
always felt like because you were
And did I say something?
yeah, you were like, where are you going? Don't leave, don't. And the current would move me around.
Yeah, I know. It was
And
so
I was
strong.
afraid that it would turn me and that the propeller would
Who
hit
hit
you.
me.
So I had to do a big wide circle to come back to you.
I don't remember that part.
And
I
I
remember
rem-
when you pulled me out of the water, the question that I asked about I was on mm terrorist attack.
Was it? Yeah.
And then right away, let me call. You have a phone? Let me call my. I called my parents first, but they didn't answer. And then my dad or my mom told. No, my dad told me it was at 2. When I called it was after 2:00 already, and he saw a weird number and said, "There's drunk kid there just playing around." Because I called like 2-3 times and he didn't answer. Then I called my wife, and she had answered, and I told her what happened. I mean, what I remember, I told her I fell into the water, and she said, "What? What do you mean from?" No, with all my pickup, I went into the. What happened? I said, "I'm okay. Don't worry. I don't know where I'm gonna go, but I'll just go with my parents' house and let them know." So my wife's the one who go and
told your parents.
My parents.
Wow.
So when you were lying on your back there, what was going through your head?
My family.
Yeah, that's the best answer right there. Because when I started seeing the cars fall off the bridge, that's what was going through my head.
My family, even inside of the pickup, before I got out, my wife, who was pregnant, 6.5 months.
Pregnant, yeah. Take your time.
You see, I told you.
Yeah.
And my daughters.
I'm glad we were there for all of them.
And you know what's interesting about this is that your son, your wife was 6-7 months pregnant, and now your son's 20 years old.
He's gonna turn 20 in December.
Wow.
Bendito sea Dios.
Wow.
I think he's
My
he's
son's
so
age.
tall. He's I think now he's 6 foot tall. My son.
Wow.
Five
Está casi de
11.
mi
Yeah,
tamaño.
yeah, I know.
How does that make you feel knowing
Dude,
that?
that's awesome. That's awesome. We were put in the right place at the right time so that Gustavo could witness his children grow up and continue with his life and do things that he's done. That gives me goosebumps, man, because I have kids and I know what it is to love somebody so much, and I'm happy for you, Gustavo. I'm so happy that you survived that, and that I can feel how grateful you are without you saying anything.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I can feel the love that you have for your kids.
They've been asking me. In fact, my dad, have you noticed any change in your life after what you went through? And a lot of people have been asking me. And I said, you know what? Yes. Probably it's not very noticeable, but they're gonna. I mean, I'm still like a normal person and everything, but I see a lot of small details in life that probably a lot of people they don't see it.
That's
One
right.
thing that I remember with my mom, which she passed away 4 years now, when there was kind of problems in the office, problems in, I don't know, things that were not going the right way. Remember my mom was telling me, Gustavo, I don't see you, worry. You look, and I say, no, Mom, I'm worried, but I don't show it. I don't demonstrate.
stress over it.
My reaction is now different. After what I went through, I know you're right.
Nothing compares to it.
No, nothing.
Yeah, es que our lives are so fragile.
It
And
is.
when you waste time worrying about a bill or a problem or a friend or something that's out of your control, it takes away from the now.
I'm a human being. I'm still worried
Oh,
about problems and all
absolutely.
that, payments and sickness and family and everything. But I show it in a different way. Like you're gonna see me and he looks very normal, but no, I'm still a human being. So, but the way I show it is probably a little bit different.
A little bit different.
That's what it changed me.
Do you suffer from any PTSD from that?
Never.
Wow.
never. One thing that I remember and that my dad told me, in fact, at the hospital, he told me, you need to speak. Let it go.
Let it go.
Speak. That's why at the beginning I was the only one that I was giving interviews.
Interviews. That's right.
With the newspaper, TV, radio, and I was the only one who, because
Because
and
you
it
let it
helped
out.
me a lot.
Yeah,
It helped me a
because you let
lot.
it out.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about what we're doing with the podcast now, sharing it 20 years later in such detail?
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, like me, that I was there, that I'm one of the survivors. There's a lot of things that I didn't know.
Mhm.
I thought I knew everything, but no.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know.
when
So
Josh and I started talking about doing this, Josh was very adamant that it's not just your story, Robert. We got to get everybody's story because there's so many different
yeah.
angles and views. And I didn't know how we were going to do that because we had lost communication and I didn't know all these other captains that have surfaces that were involved and participated in things that night. So yeah, no, this has been a passion project of ours. And to see you here, it's very warming. It's very
no, thanks for inviting me.
definitely.
And yeah, but I mean, and all the people you've been interviewing and that being here, the captains, Pastor
Pastor Hyde.
I don't remember. Probably he approached me some, but I don't remember him. I remember the other father from the Catholic Church that is in Port Isabel. But what he said, Pastor Hyde and everything, wow.
Yeah,
And
no,
then
no.
the captains, they were here.
That
too.
were there and around in the water that night. I always wondered what it was like realizing that you're on your way in off the bridge for you guys. So to hear you tell your story and how the water started coming up through the pedals and you were able to roll down your windows to get out, that brings me anxiety just sitting here. I can't even go into my closet and close the door because me da ansias to think about knowing that you're underwater, knowing that your vehicle's filling up and still have the mental capacity to slow down and think is what I sometimes fear I don't have.
At one point, yeah, like I mentioned, at one point before that calm came, I was like, I was feeling the water coming in. I said, shoot, God, please, I don't want to die right now.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, don't be killed out of it.
Wow.
is-
Take us back to when you were already on the boats, when the Coast Guard got there. What do you remember?
I remember I think Bridget was on this side. I was sitting on the back, right? And I remember the way I was sitting because my leg. I was like I was in a spring break on the beach or
he
something.
was like lounging.
I was like this, just watching
That's
the
exactly
sky. Right? I
Yeah,
remember
that's right.
that.
That's right. He was laying down, basically lounging down like this, basically just kind of absorbing everything that was happening.
Exactly. And then I didn't know that you were asking. I mean, you're for and Bridget or asking what happened to your clothes, and that I was not answering. Is
It
that
looked like
true?
he was.
That I
Yes.
was in-
No, you
I
were
was
just
somewhere else.
You were just looking at the stars. You were looking at the
Probably
stars.
that's what I was in shock at that time because before that I was always ready to see what's going to happen.
or how you could help. And no,
So
he
probably
was
when
just-
I was at the boat, I say, you know what, I made it. So and then probably that why I was in shock because I don't remember those questions and I don't remember answer you back. So
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
it was it. That's why when I was describing Gustavo, it was disoriented because it was like he knew something had happened, but he just couldn't piece together.
Yeah.
And I think he was stuck thinking, did I cause an accident? Did this happen? He was just in his mind thinking, ¿qué acaba de suceder? What just happened?
It's strange how the mind just shuts.
Changed because before I went in shock, because definitely what you're saying probably that moment I was in shock. So I didn't know exactly what was going on, but just go back just 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I was awake because I called my wife, I called my parents.
Yeah.
So I was awake, but then after I was already on the boat. say, you know what, I made it, and probably that's when I went into. I don't remember.
I think he started realizing, yeah, he had already called. He knew his parents were being made aware of. He had already spoken to his wife. He was already safe on the boat. I think that's when he realized, and his mind just caught up with everything. And
Correct, yeah.
Como que se durmió despierto. It was just like,
yeah, that's right.
like just
probably
daydream.
because I mean, I don't remember those questions, but now that you're saying, so what I remember when I was on the boat, I remember the Coast Guard came, and they move us from your boat to their boat.
To their boat, and then
All three, right?
Yeah.
Bridget, Renee, and me. And then 5 minutes, 10 minutes later,
everybody back on Robert's boat.
Wow.
Yeah, I never told how them two also got put on the boat. I always talk about Rene because he was on a gurney.
Yeah.
And we struggled with them. They were just kind of picked up and pulled on.
Wow.
Yeah, because
And-
we were able. I mean, even
With
my
his
leg,
injury,
we
he
were
was able to
walk.
move.
Yeah, to move.
So when you got on the boats, what was it like up there? What were the
On the
on the
Robert's
Coast
boat,
Guard on the Coast Guard?
I don't remember that. I mean,
was-
I just went. It was fast.
Yeah.
They
It was-
pull us. They go back. No, you know what? Go back.
So Bridget, Roland, and Tony and Leroy are helping Bridget up. Like she's literally like stepping on their shoulders, and she's on the boat. Gustavo's next. Boom. We get Rene, and then this guy comes out and says, "What are y'all doing?" They all have to go back, and they literally lowered all of these three previously, injured people back onto my tiny little boat in comparison, and send us on our way.
Wow.
So get on the boat, get off the boat, get out of here. Do you remember going to the Coast Guard station?
Yeah, I remember that. That I was gonna say. After I don't know, an hour, 2 hours. After I mean, it was I don't know
Yeah, a
about
long
the
time.
time. Something that I don't have a exact moment. The time we
Oh,
spent
the time
there.
frame, yeah.
The time frame. I remember getting to the Coast Guard station. They pulled us out of the boat.
Yeah.
And then there were some benches there or something. So I said, Bridget started walking
Yeah,
around.
Bridget was pacing
started
everywhere.
walking, I remember. But no, I was sitting on the bench. Remember Renee lying on
On the gurney, on the concrete.
gurney, yeah. And then the helicopter came. They put Renee and me on the helicopter. But then it was too much of a weight. So they asked me, how do you feel? And I said, no, I feel good. Do you have any? I said, I only felt my leg. That's about it. Okay, we're going to move you out because, I mean, there was too much weight for the helicopter.
For the helicopter.
So they put me back again, and
Wow.
they took off with Renee, and I stood there with Bridget until the other Coast Guard.
Yeah,
or
until the other Coast Guard people came.
Wow.
On my way from the Coast Guard station to Port Isabel, one of the Coast Guard, I'm assuming, and I don't know his name, but he was grabbing my hand. And he was telling me, "Don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep." And I said, "No, man.
I think that
I'm
was
not gonna
Chris,
sleep."
yeah.
The one you mentioned,
Yeah,
Chris,
Chris,
probably was him. He was holding my hand the whole from the time he took us from the Coast Guard station to
Port Isabel.
To Port Isabel, he was holding my hand and he was telling me, "Don't go to sleep. How do you feel?" "Oh, no, I'm good." In fact, I was trying to get up to see
What was going on.
What was going on? No, just stay down, lay down,
Relax,
just
yeah.
stay there, relax. Everything is good. How are you feeling? Good. The whole, I don't know how long it took us from the.
Oh, from there it was like maybe a 20-minute, 30-minute ride.
So then the helicopter was at the
Coast Guard station.
Coast Guard
He
station.
wasn't there at the moment,
No.
right?
Yeah.
The problem they call him, and I don't know how long it took for the helicopter to arrive. But yeah, they tried to put me inside of the helicopter with Rene, and then you know what, Gustavo, are you feeling okay? Yeah. Are you good? Yeah, sure, yes.
And then they put him into
Get
the
up.
ambulance.
Yeah, and they
Wow.
put me in the ambulance.
How does that feel? Like getting taken off the Coast Guard boat and then being taken off the helicopter. How does that make you?
I didn't feel anything. I mean, after everything that I went through, and I saw it normal.
It's a testimony to how disoriented everybody was. It's proof that nobody had any clue about what to do. Literally, Coast Guard people told us, get them on our boat, and we did that. And then another Coast Guard came by and said, no, put them back on Robert's boat.
Yeah.
And then we get to the Coast Guard station, and no, the helicopter's over there. So We get there, they load them both on. Wait a minute, it's too heavy. Take him off. Like it was just, and nobody knew what to do. Everybody was working on this and looking at the bridge. You okay? You okay? Oh my God! Look, and everybody was in awe of what happened. That they didn't know how to tend to the people who needed it.
Yeah, they were not ready for that type of accident. Yeah. I mean, well, it was not expected to happen. Never expected to happen.
I don't think I would be shocked to find out that Port Isabel, South Padre Island, the Coast Guard, all had or have had any kind of training in preparation for the bridge being out. I don't think it exists because if it did, none of the people who were there that night went through that training.
You know what's interesting about that too is when we were talking, Celeste found us all this stuff, that she found that the Coast Guard had given recommendations about what to do for the bridge, and only like 2 of them were ever done. Like,
wow.
So like after the whole thing happened, it's crazy. Like nothing's changed at the island, like with the bridge. And I was asking the captains, like, can you foresee this happening again? I said, yes.
Well, I mean, we've had a plane hit the bridge.
Yeah, before, I know.
Several boats and tugboats have bumped into the causeway.
Yeah.
What happened, what made this night different was that hurricane was in the Gulf. The riptide was extremely strong.
How dark was it that night? Do you remember?
Real dark. I mean, I don't know how far away we were between Bridget and me, but I couldn't see her.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so dark.
In the boat?
No, we were in the water.
In the water, yeah.
Oh, wow.
While we were in the water, you already mentioned that on one of your podcasts, the lights were off. Mm-hmm. And I remember because 2 days or 3 days before, I was talking to one of my friend, or I don't remember who, about the lights. Hey, there are no lights. I mean, it's hard to see. I mean,
on the driving, you have your headlights.
Yeah. So there were no lights, not because of the accident. There were no lights before.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was everything. I mean, all was dark. I mean, I couldn't see no one.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, it's super, super dark. And then I can't imagine floating in a dark water.
Yeah.
In a bay where there's sharks, there's all kinds of fish and barracudas, and how deep, and it's just there's no way, man.
I mentioned my daughter at that time. She was the oldest one. She was 5 years old, and Dad, were there any sharks in the water? I said, I don't know. Yeah.
Like at the time, he doesn't know if he's bleeding. He doesn't know what. Like my mind would have immediately gone crazy if it was me floating in the water. Me hubiera vuelto loco. Just thinking about.
Well, I get into water just on the regular beach, and I'm freaked out sometimes. Like,
or if you've ever been on a tube and they're pulling you, and then you fall off the tube, and you gotta wait for them to come pick you up. You're floating there. You're thinking, "What's under me?" Wow. During the day, I can't imagine at night and how dark it was. That's you guys have an amazing survival story.
I didn't realize, or I wasn't thinking, it's too dark. I was trying just to survive. I was trying just to float. Mm-hmm. I mean, and then I swam a little bit just around there. Then that's when I went to try to lay on my back. But about the darkness, I didn't realize how dark it was. I mean, after that, I couldn't see Bridget. We were just screaming at each other just to see that we were there. But I didn't feel any panic.
So Bridget was in the water, or she was in the boat?
No, we were all water.
Oh, you were both
all
in the
three
water.
were on the water before
before we got.
So y'all were screaming at each other,
yeah,
and you couldn't see her.
No.
Wow.
Just screaming at another
René,
voice.
I never saw him on the water until he was already on the boat. I didn't know that.
He was boca abajo when we found him.
I didn't know that. I mean, how he was able to...
When they rolled him over, he just spit out a bunch of water and he started yelling.
I wonder if he was kind of like to the side trying to yell.
He
was so exhausted.
Yeah, he was severely hurt. His back was hurting several places.
Yeah, I remember René on the water until I saw him on the boat already.
Wow.
Yeah, because again, by that time, Gustavo was already just kind of
looking at the sky,
in a daze, just like, wow, what just happened?
Jeez. So obviously the podcast, I got to say, please subscribe to the podcast if you're enjoying everything that we're doing. We're trying to grow this as much as we can. We're also trying to get more credible information from people that were out there on the water that night, and that includes the other survivors. I know it's not everybody's time to come out on the podcast, and we 100 respect that. We get it. We understand. But the invitation is there for anybody that has credible information, and of course we'd love to get the survivors point of view from that night, because I think it's such an integral part of this story. And
and every survivor have their own what they went through.
So I'm curious if all of the vehicles that were carrying a survivor had roll-up windows now, because it's two. You had manual windows, and so did Bridget.
But not Rene.
But Rene didn't.
No, he was driving a Mustang.
Yeah, that's right.
You were telling me, though, that all the survivors had their seatbelts on.
Yes, we did know. Yeah.
That helped me, and that's one advice that I want to give. No matter how long you're going to drive or how far you're going to be driving, always wear your seatbelt. You never know.
If you think
that
about
helped
it,
me a lot. I mean, 100% saved me. And I know by fact.
Wow.
In fact, I have some burns on the side of my waist and right here because of probably the pressure of the belt. When you hit that, it lasted like 2 weeks, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sheesh.
But if you think about it, it's what held his weight. Because if not, when he hit the water, he would have.
Yeah, I know.
Falling right into the pedals.
To the pedals or the
steering wheel.
The steering wheel.
What's crazy is you showed us the picture of your truck.
Oh,
wow. And I'll show it on the podcast here. But wow.
Yeah.
Geez. Like when you saw that, how did it make you feel?
Man, I was inside of this pickup? Of course. Again, the pickup, they put it off the water. They pull it off of the water, I don't know, a week after or I don't know how long. So there's a lot of the pillars that fell down the following day, Saturday. A lot of stuff, but man, it's to see how my pickup was. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a true miracle that that you were able to get out of that truck as quickly as you did, and virtually really unhurt.
Yeah, basically.
Think about it.
What surprised me now that you're saying unhurt, it's Bridget. She went to my hospital room the following day when she was already out, and sorry,
it's okay.
And because we got to the hospital at 6:00 in the morning, by 1 o'clock same day she was already out of the hospital. Wow. Physically, I didn't see any on her. Nothing
was wrong with her.
Yeah, me. I mean, I was only 2 days, a day and a half at the hospital. I mean, thank God, nothing major. And the rest, the recovery was at home.
Yeah.
Wow. So Bridgewater Towing, we found this out recently. Celeste shared it with me. They put the first legal document into the court system at 3:45 p.m. that day.
I saw that.
They filed that motion.
2:45. No?
It was 3:45. Yeah, 3:45, and they said that we're only worth $250,000. You can't get anything from us. Yeah. What? How does that make you feel, knowing that people had perished and everything that happened tonight? How does that make you feel?
I don't know. In fact, right after, of course. It was crazy. After I was at home, there were a lot of DPS reporters and a lot of lawyers calling me. And then on interviews that reported, what about are you going to file a lawsuit? And I said, you know what, I don't want to talk about any legal matters. Just leave that to my lawyer. And so what you're asking me, I mean, right now, I feel like shit, man. They didn't care about those who die or we that survive.
They didn't care.
They didn't care.
What's interesting is when I was talking to the captains, and they were saying that they felt no human compassion from them. They were chugging water like if they were about to have a drug test. But pretty much what it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The crew members. That's two captains
from the tugboat.
two of the captains that have been on Josh's podcast have both said that they witnessed in the galley, which is like the kitchen of the boat, that several of the crew members were chugging waters and
Chugging everything they
gallons
can
of
get
water,
a hold
coffee, anything,
and
so that
smoking
they
cigarettes.
could clean their system out.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
of. Yeah. It's crazy because we saw some of the toxology reports,
Yep.
and what was interesting about that was the Coast Guard. Like, talk about that.
The Coast Guard with
Did you went into the? Did you go to the tugboat or?
no.
Oh, okay. I
The
thought-
captains that were on the podcast,
Yeah. Yeah. I
those
saw it.
guys took different border patrol and different entities to the tugboat, and actually one of them actually climbed on and was
Yeah.
invited on.
Okay,
So-
that's what, yeah. I heard on one of the okay, one of them
And-
climb. Okay.
and he was the one who was kind of offended because the guy who invited him on the boat didn't care. You know, he was just being very nonchalant.
What's interesting about that too is that there was a live video feed, and one of the captains put out his hand, and you can see his hand there.
Yeah, on the video.
And the guy from the tugboat, he was like, "Look, we're on TV. I'm gonna get laid."
Yeah, he goes, "I'm gonna get laid off of this story forever." And
No, I didn't know that.
And sure enough, the captain, the local from Port Isabel, was offended by the comment and told him something. And then the crew member of the barge boat asked him to leave. He says, "No, you know what? I think the insurance
Company won't like
wouldn't
you.
like you being on our vessel, so you probably should go." But he got to get there and see all of that. You know?
Wow.
And then the other captain, he said that when he was passing them, that they were just drinking coffee like
yeah.
nothing.
Just
No,
during
like
their
nothing
coffee.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
Oh,
I remember seeing one or two guys running on the barges themselves with lights, and you couldn't see them, but you could see their lights bobbing around and running around, and so you knew somebody was on the boat. But I never really saw any of the crew members because the barge was on the south side of the bridge, and the majority of the things that we were doing when we were picking
On the-
up
on the other side.
was on the north side.
yeah. Like I told you at the beginning, I didn't see the barge until the tugboat until the next day on TV.
Until the next
Wow.
day on TV.
So you didn't even have a clue what happened. Wow.
No.
Did you? I don't remember seeing you at a lot of the mediations. Did you go to all of them as well?
I think I don't know to all of them, but one thing that and good that you mentioned, for example, that one that you went where they were showing the pictures.
pictures?
Probably
Uh-huh.
I didn't go to that. I didn't go to that one.
That's what I was going to ask you about those pictures, because I think that a lot of that had a lot of impact on me. Those pictures in specifically because when you see that, it's something that you can't erase from your mind.
I saw some pictures after the newspaper or through the internet where there's one picture there where there's the crane with the pickup
With a
truck,
car, yeah,
with a
pull a car.
pull a car. That's the only one that I remember. The other one, of course, that's been there forever. The guy from Gaspar cars.
Yeah, car.
But beside those pictures, I don't remember any other picture. Well, my truck, my pickup.
Yeah.
Do you remember maybe hearing or seeing Gaspar? The one that was on the pillar?
No, I didn't hear anything. No.
Gaspar was on the west side of the gap, and Gustavo and Bridget were on the east side.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's one thing. And when we were in the water before they got there, I don't remember seeing the car. I mean, crash on the pillar.
crash on the pillar.
I didn't see. I mean, physically, I didn't see it. I mean, I saw it the next day on the pictures and on TV. But like me telling me, yeah, I saw the car. No, I didn't see the car because I was probably on the other. Like,
By
I don't know
any
what to say.
chance, do you remember if there was a lot of traffic on the causeway, or was it? había
No,
poquito?
that's not because when I was driving,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember seeing any cars behind me.
Behind you. Good.
Because from the opposite side, well, there were no cars because the gap was already there.
Yeah, it was already there.
And but I don't remember seeing any. But probably there were some. The guy who stopped.
The guy who stopped.
Yeah, probably he was behind me. And he saw me.
Yeah.
Going down.
I wonder how long between the cars falling did each one happen?
Happened, yeah, like the-
Because I mean, if it was
No.
One after-
there was two that went over right next to each other. Just one,
Wow.
two.
wow,
The first one there was enough time between that one and the next one for us to throw everything off of our boats and start going. And then when we started going again, another one.
I remember, sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
when
go
you
ahead.
mentioned that, and that's true, because I remember, I saw it. When he told me that
Yeah, they were-
floated, I saw, I don't know if, it wasn't you, I don't know who, Tony,
Tony,
or,
yeah.
or someone, throwing away ice chest and
Yeah, everything.
I don't know what he was throwing away, and I say, hey, they're throwing away the beers. No, not really. But that when they mentioned that they throw away all their equipment,
Yeah,
it's true.
everything.
I saw it, and I remember that part.
I think the Johnny's True Value from South Padre Island called us up. It just popped into my head right now, and they re-equipped all of us with. Each of us got an ice chest. Each of us got the pinrails and the rod
For a
and the
boat that
tackle,
doesn't no longer
for
exist.
a boat that I didn't even have anything to do with anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. And we never went fishing after that. I personally haven't gone fishing after that in the Laguna Madre at night ever again. That was the last time I got into the water at night in the Laguna Madre.
Do you still travel to the beach?
Yeah, in fact, right after the reopening ceremony, they invite me. I think Channel 5. They invite me. Well, they invite us all the survivors, but I was the only one who went through the reopening of the causeway. And they invite me. I crossed up. My first time that I crossed the causeway after the accident was on a limousine.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
With channel ABC. I think it was Channel 5. I don't remember. But that was my first time. The next day, I told my wife, you know what? Let's go to the island. Why do you want to go to the? I want to have the feeling of, driving. I want to drive again. Okay, let's go.
So you knew that you just had to get it over with.
Yeah,
Like, just move on.
Yes, I did it.
Yeah, because that's the crazy thing about life, and I always talk about this, is no matter, and I've never gone through anything as traumatic as you guys, so I can't really compare, but I feel like obviously people are going through hardships or through times, even with COVID, anything that's going on in their lives, they still have to get up and do what they got to do.
Yes, you have to move on. Thank God he gave me another opportunity, and we have to move on. Sure. So that's why I told my wife, you know what, let's go. I want to drive. Are you sure? Yeah, let's go.
How old were you at that time?
36.
Wow.
Yeah, 36.
Wow.
I just turned on 56 this past Wednesday.
Felicidades.
Wow. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
No, thank you. So again, every year, every day, it's a new day for me.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. I like that you said that because it is, and everybody should treat life.
a new day that I give thanks because I give him another opportunity to live my life.
Yeah.
You remember being in the water smelling gas.
Yes.
Two of
A
you
lot.
guys were soaked in gas.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Like when they jumped in, they jumped
into
all that gas.
Yeah, into gas. And Roland and Leroy, their eyes were bloodshot because you had salt water in them, you had gasoline in them, and we didn't have any. Since we had thrown everything off the boat, we didn't have rags. We didn't have, so they literally couldn't even wipe the gas or the salt water out of their eyes with anything because they were covered in it.
Jeez.
And if they'd pick up their shirt, so I was the one who was the least wet from the seawater and from jumping in. And the floor where Tony was kind of consoling people and stuff was super wet. So he was wet. So I was literally doing this to them with my shirt so that they could wipe their eyes. And they'd come down and get my shirt and pull my shirt up from the top to wipe their eyes every time they'd get back on the boat because their eyes were on fire. And since we had thrown the ice chests out that had a few bottled waters, they couldn't even rinse their faces.
Wow.
So they were with gasoline and salt water drenched in this for hours. For hours, And
So they jump into the water?
oh yeah. To get Bridget in, we didn't know how injured she was. So their instinct was to jump into the water. For Rene, he couldn't even move. It was like lifting up dead weight out of the
So me, I
water.
was the only one that was able to
You were
get on my own.
You and Bridget helped yourselves up onto the water. We didn't have to get into the water.
Okay.
But when they got to Bridget, they did anyway. because they didn't know. Everybody was so full of adrenaline that we just thought, get in the water, help her in. Rene wasn't as fortunate as you two.
No, I
He
know,
was
I know.
really injured, and so they had to spend some time in the water. And you got to remember, it was deep enough to where they couldn't stand on the floor. So you're floating in the water, doggy paddling, trying to lift weight, and every time you pick up, you go down.
Down, yeah.
So they jumped into the water. I'm trying to pilot the boat with one hand and pulling them up. Tony is trying to do what he can do, and finally, eventually, I let go of the wheel, and we get up and we grab Rene by the shorts or whatever he was wearing, and we all picked him up. Leroy and Roland follow, and they're literally they don't even know what to do because they realize that they are drenched
in
and
gas.
it's gas.
Wow.
So my eyes are burning, and sure enough, Tony's already all wet because he's been trying to pull him up, and my shirt was the driest shirt that we had. So they started, pulling my collar and pulling here and trying to wipe their faces and give me water. Do we have water? I need to rinse my face. And we had nothing. We had thrown everything off.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember having any issue with my eyes.
Yeah, no.
In the meantime that while I was in the water.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, these guys were beat up bad.
So Tony was telling us about your shirt, which I found super interesting. That your shirt was like cut,
Yeah,
in certain spots, like
just
by
shredded,
scissors or
like
something.
it looked perfectly shredded.
What
all
do you
front.
think that was?
I don't remember. That's one part that I don't even remember what happened. That's why I was telling you. I called my dad about 2 weeks.
And he
ago.
confirmed it, yeah.
Yeah, he confirmed that. You remember how I got to my clothes? Yeah, they were all shredded. They were all like they use scissor to cut it out.
It
Wow.
exactly like that.
I don't
It
remember.
looked
The only thing
exactly-
I remember again that I was wearing just one shoe. That's the only thing that I remember. I don't know why.
it was so obvious to everybody that it looked like maybe he was coming from a costume party and that was done deliberately. That everybody was looking like, how did that happen? How did that happen? But things were going on that we couldn't really spend much time trying to figure it out, so we just left it alone. But yeah, it's puzzling because nobody else's clothes was like that.
It's one little detail that is like,
How?
Yeah, how do you
And if
explain
you
it?
rolled down your window and crawled out, because I thought maybe you crawled out of the windshield, and there was maybe
Yeah, but the windshield didn't. I mean, it was
he climbed
intact.
out.
I mean,
Came
nothing
out of his driver window. So that to me was always and still is puzzling, and apparently it's puzzling to everybody because nobody knows how your clothes got that way. Had
Neither
it
do I.
been, yeah. Had you arrived at the hospital that way, I can see the EMTs cutting your pants or cutting your
Oh,
shirt.
yes.
That's fine. But you were like that when you came onto the boat fresh out of the water. So it was super, super weird, to say the least. And yeah, to this day, I'll smell gasoline or drop, a couple of drops of gasoline on my tennis shoe or something, and then get into the car and you smell it. And that is literally like a little time machine and takes me right back to that moment.
It happens to me also.
Yeah, it's weird. And you can smell an old book from a library, and all of a sudden you're teleported to elementary, when you were there, and you can smell your mom's perfume and be taken back to a fondest memory with her. Well, gasoline takes me back to that night.
Yeah. Wow.
And to this day it'll happen. I'll be like, wow.
Gustavo, from your experience, everything that you've gone through in the past 20 years, this is a direct message to the other survivors. What would you say to them to help alleviate, or not alleviate, but I guess
Soothe
their
the past.
past?
I mean, each person is different.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, again, what it helped me out a lot was what my dad told me right away. Yeah, just pick it out. Just let it go.
Talk about it.
Talk about it. Don't keep it to yourself. So I don't know about Bridget and Rene, if they feel different, or they want to keep it under to their own. I don't know. So I mean, I don't want to say anything because I'm not sure what.
Everybody is different. Everybody has a different healing process. What your dad told you is true, and it works. My therapist, that was being paid for by the attorneys and everything at the time, told me, Robert, the best thing I can tell you is to write it down and get it out of your mind. He would tell me, your mind, our minds, is the deepest, darkest hole you can go into, even though it's just in your mind.
That's right.
And if you stay in there and you try to argue with your thoughts by yourself in your mind, you'll get lost, he says. But if you say things out loud and you give it to the universe and you hear it with your ears, instead of hearing it mentally in your mind, it'll sound different and it'll touch different parts of your soul, of your body. So say it out loud, even if it's embarrassing, even if it's frightening, even if it's, you know, a memory you don't want to really talk about. For people who've been through traumatic things, you can't just keep it in your mind. You gotta say it out loud and
Give it back
to the world, you know. And when you hear it coming out of your mouth, it'll cleanse you. And I started doing that. I would tell
it helped me a lot.
Yeah, it helps.
Personally,
I would talk to my wife, and sometimes us as men don't want to revisit things that'll get us choked up or that'll, you know, make us teary-eyed.
And I told you at the beginning, even though it's been 20 years, probably we're at some point that my voice is gonna
crack. Yeah, crack, and you get emotional. And growing up here, siendo Latino, pues eso es lo de la machista de que don't cry and don't this and so. I just started crying, man. I just started, every time I had to, I would talk to my wife, I would talk to my kids, I'd tell them the story. And if I cried, I cried, and there was no shame in it. And I think it helped me tremendously to let it out, to not keep it in here or here, because es un cáncer and it'll eat up at you.
I don't know, but it's been helping me a lot. Just to continue talking about it, even though it's 20 years, but it always helps.
Yeah. How often do you think about what happened at night?
Oh, almost every day.
Every day, every day. Yeah.
In a small detail or a big detail, or it's every day.
Yeah, every day. Last night, I was here. I opened for a group of guys who wanted to play and have a good time here. So we opened up, and on the way home, I was on an overpass. And there was 3 or 4 cars in front of me. As soon as those cars' taillights disappear on the other side, I didn't get an ugly feeling. Yeah, thank God I don't get scared anymore. But it took me right back. And knowing that I was going to talk to you today, and I was thinking, man, this is what Gustavo saw. He saw tail lights going over, but he didn't realize that they had fallen. They thought just, nope, because he already crossed the tallest point. And
yes.
He's safely on the road on the other side.
But you know what? I don't remember. I don't want to say no. Mm-hmm. Seeing any cars in front of me.
Okay,
so well, that's probably the last one was already on the water.
Had already fell.
Because I don't remember seeing no one in front of me. Again, I don't remember seeing no one behind me.
Either, yeah.
Which now I know that there was someone behind me. But no, I was the only one on the causeway. And because it was too dark. And most of before going down, most of the time I was just looking at the looking at
because of the lights. It distracted him.
Wow.
And I said, "What?" I mean, just thinking inside. They're fishing.
Why so much light? Yeah,
and then boom.
Yeah, that goes back to your theory about that light that was getting everybody's attention when they were driving by.
It caught me my attention.
And it wasn't just a little light. It was a light that looked like it was shooting up to the moon.
Yeah, because
it was a train light.
I turned and I looked and not that I just turned. Okay, I saw the light and okay, I continued driving. So I was just going like this. What is going on? What is going on? And then boom.
Wow.
Now I know what was going on.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think that the people who were there, Gustavo, myself, and other individuals, I think we think about it every day. At one point or another, whether you dwell on it, and that's the difference between healing. That's what makes us heal differently. Because when Gustavo and I think about it now, I think it's for a fraction of a second, and it's turned into an appreciation of that night. We survived it. We
Is
made
that how
it
you
out.
feel?
Yes.
You know,
Definitely.
and I think others could possibly dwell on it longer, and the dwelling becomes guilt, or it becomes, you know, sadness, or it becomes fear.
And sometimes, sorry to interrupt you again,
Definitely.
but sometimes, right after my accident, not right now, 20 years after, but right after my accident, a year, 2 years, 3 years after, sometimes I was feeling like guilty. And I was asking God, why me that I'm here? And the other 8 don't.
Yeah, that's survivor's guilt, and it's a real thing. But just the way we're not meant to understand God and how He does things, we're just here to accept, and that acceptance is the difference between healing and moving on. You got to accept that it's not for you to understand what God's plan is.
Yeah.
It's not for us to try to recreate it and think, oh well, this could have done. That's just not for us. For us is to understand that everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
Y Diosito sabe lo que hace, and that's where we're at. Those who dwell on, well, why me, and how come they didn't survive, and you're asking questions
That will
that
never be answered.
literally will never be answered.
Yeah.
It's like having a puzzle, and you want to finish the puzzle, but you're missing all these pieces. That puzzle is only going to bring frustration to you for the rest of your life because you can't finish it. Well, the questions that I hope people are not asking themselves, like, why me? And what am I supposed to do now with this new chance at life? Those questions aren't for you to ask. Those questions are for you to just put aside and forget them, and understand that you've been given a chance, you've been blessed, and God has a plan for you. Because if He didn't, you wouldn't be around at this point.
Yeah.
What did your parents say about the whole thing, that after the fact, what was going through their head?
I don't know if you can answer.
His father's here, right here.
Yeah,
hanging
my
out
dad
with
is
us.
here. So that's why sometimes you saw me just turning to look at this side. Yeah, but my dad, well, I don't know. Well, the only thing that they told me, my mom especially, that if I would have died in that accident, she didn't know
What you would have done.
what was going to happen.
We need to understand that there's a word for losing a spouse. You become a widow or a widower. No existe una palabra that describes a parent who has lost a child.
No.
You
No.
can't look at that. You can't put a word on that. It's something so ugly that nobody's ever cared to name or give a word to.
Yeah.
So for a parent to lose a child is such an ugly thing that literally there's a word for everything and every scenario in this world except that. Put your mind around that. Well, my parents, after telling me, you know, obviously how proud they were of what we did, told me what I just told you guys. My mom said, Mijo, I don't know what I would have done had I lost you that night.
Yeah.
And
That's what my
there's
mom
no
told me.
there's no word for that. She says, what do I become? A parent without a child who loses a child. What is that word for that, Mijo? And I said, I don't know. And she says, exactly. Nobody's ever taken. We have widowers and we have widows. But a parent doesn't get to be called something when they lose a child. She said, I would have been that nothing.
There's just a void.
It's just a void.
Let me ask you this, Gustavo. The supernatural part of that night, the woman in the water. What do you think about that?
When I heard, I mean, I don't remember. I don't know if I was already in the boat when that happened.
No. When we went to go get Gustavo, we had just left you, turned around, was when we saw her and everything.
Okay.
I
and
mean,
was still
Gustavo,
in the-
Rene. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah.
I was already in the boat.
Yes. Yeah, but again, you were in that position of
Yeah, I was in shock. So
just like
I
just
mean,
a void.
I don't remember them asking me what happened to your clothes. I mean, I didn't, and that's because Bridget told me we were asking you,
Yes.
and you were not answering. You were just like, yes, no, I don't know,
Like in a trance.
like in trance. Yeah. So that particular part, I don't remember. I didn't hear. I didn't see anything.
But hearing about it now,
Yeah.
how does it?
No, but wow. I mean,
It's an amazing event.
I mean,
You were with
I
us
don't
at the
know.
hospital though when we went to go visit Rene.
Rene.
Remember when we walked into his room? So we didn't talk about it. Remember, I said Rene's dad came out and said, "Who did I speak to that night?" He said, "You." And then he and I kind of understood what was going on, but it was something that both of us were afraid to talk about because of how magnificent it sounded in our minds. Thinking that I was talking to his wife. So we didn't discuss it other than he told me that she had passed away in the exact hospital room that his son was recovering now.
yeah, that's
Was
something.
it blew my mind, man. I was like, mira, esta madre hasta lo puso en el mismo recamo, en el mismo cuarto donde estuvo ella. I mean, donde probablemente está ella todavía.
Oh,
you know?
yes.
So it was mind blowing for me to hear that. And to come to that conclusion. And then I come to the conclusion, and I understand that Rene's dad also is making the same connections, and neither of us could bring ourselves to talk about it.
Wow.
It was just too intense.
So do you
intense.
believe everything that happened that from
Yeah,
these
I do
guys'
believe,
mouths?
yeah, because I mean, why they're gonna invent something after all they saw, after all they went through, after all they were going through at that particular moment? Why make something that? So I do. I mean, it's hard to believe, but I do believe it.
I thank you for saying that, because there have been trying times in my life when even I've questioned it, when even I've said, man, maybe I didn't see what I think I saw. And I would never bring myself to ask Roland or any of the guys, because we just
We don't talk about
we
it.
don't talk about it. That night became like Fight Club, the movie. Like, number rule about Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club. Well, we never talked about that night. And to this day, unless we were sitting in front of a mic or doing a Q&A or something, we don't talk about it. And you've seen us as soon as these mics shut off, and as soon as the Q&As are done at our screenings and stuff,
So you leave it there.
that's where it stays.
Yes.
Because it's not something that we talk about. It's just really, I don't know how it evolved into that, but I thank you for saying that you believe me and us and our affidavits that we took that night or that morning, and I do believe that Rene's mother and God had their hands involved in that night, so that there could be certain survivors, and so that there could be a story.
Yeah.
Yo me he enamorado de esa historia. I really have fallen in love with that story, and I look at my mother differently, and I look at my wife and how she tends to my children, and there's a different respect there, because again, a mother's love.
Yeah, you see things in a different way.
In a different way, yeah.
They're seeing things in a different way. The way they went through that accident, I'm seeing a different way. The way I went through that accident. So yeah, you see life in a different way.
So before we finish off the podcast, Gustavo, kind of just, if you have anything else you want to share, please do.
No, again, like I do every single day, I give thanks to the Lord, because you never know what's going to happen the next day. Not even the next day, the next minute.
The next second, yeah.
So the next second, you're right. So it's give thanks every day for a new day in life, and just wear your seatbelts.
Once again, guys, this is the
Thank you so
podcast.
much.
Please subscribe. If you like what we're doing, make sure you share. Robert, I'm going to let you sign us off this time, man, because
Everybody, thank you so much for following us. Gustavo, thank you. It's an honor to be here in your presence and to hear your story. You guys follow, share, be a part of this. The story belongs to all of us. We love you guys for listening and participating. Good evening.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.